President Donald Trump says an agreement has been reached between the United States and Iran, and that on Friday, Iran will reopen the Strait of Hormuz for shipping, and the U.S. will lift its naval blockade, allowing ships filled with crude oil to pass through. Pakistan's prime minister says the agreement signing will take place Friday in Switzerland. Pakistan has been mediating these discussions. Meanwhile, Vice President J.D. Vance telling Fox News he will attend and that Trump might go as well, as sources tell CNN that the president wanted an agreement before he left overnight for the G7 summit expected to happen this week in France. Iran's deputy foreign minister for legal and international affairs says Iran will begin to enact the deal on Friday. We're covering this story from all angles. For the White House perspective, I want to bring in CNN's Julia Benbrook, who joins us now, along with CNN international diplomatic editor Nick Robertson. Nick, I just want to start with you. How would you characterize the significance of this moment, and what hurdles are there still left to be had here?
Look, I think it was very significant that there was all sides now have said that they've reached this agreement, and they did this today, and not just for President Trump's 80th birthday. There was a real potential for escalation late today. Israel had struck at Hezbollah targets close to Beirut because Hezbollah had struck into Israel. That had happened earlier in the day. The Iranians, it appeared, were preparing to follow through on commitments they'd given to support Hezbollah across what they see as a wide battlefield, and that they potentially were preparing to strike back. So getting this agreement to end the military hostilities is significant to get it done today. They've reached the agreement, but it's not the signing. The signing, everyone has agreed that it's going to come on Friday, this coming Friday. It's going to happen in Switzerland. So that's significant as well. There's going to be technical level talks, preparatory talks, if you will, that will go on through this week. But I think this essence of trying to capture the agreement and not let it fall by the wayside and not let spoilers get in the way of it. And it's significant that we've heard from the Iranian deputy foreign minister as well, sort of going along with these details. But he does say that Iran's commitment to the talks in the future, and this is a sort of language we've heard from Iran in the past, that is dependent on the United States ending the hostilities as they've agreed to do, opening the Strait of Hormuz as they've agreed to do. But the Iranian deputy foreign minister goes on to say, and we want to see our frozen assets, our continued involvement in further talks and negotiations. Of course, these 60 days to talk through the details of the MOU, very difficult, very tough talks to be had. But the Iranians saying their involvement in that is going to be contingent on getting these frozen assets. And that, as we know, is something that's been a very sensitive point that President Trump has not wanted to get into so far. And of course, we don't have the details of this agreement yet because it's not been made public and it hasn't been signed yet physically. So that's where we're at.
And Julia, the White House, obviously a major portion of these negotiations, and we had heard in the days leading up to this that there was a projection of maybe there's going to be a breakthrough. We're expecting it this day. We're expecting it another day. What are we hearing from the White House, and how do we expect their posturing either to change or to be moving forward?
Right. Well, we had heard repeatedly from the administration, from President Donald Trump yesterday, that this was expected to be signed on Sunday, also his 80th birthday. It's Flag Day. It's the day those UFC fights are taking place there on the South Lawn. No doubt a big day for him. But it may not be happening when he had hoped. But this does seem, of course, like a significant step forward now that both sides are saying that there is this agreement in place. And Trump's confirmation that there was an agreement with Iran, it came shortly after Pakistan, a key mediator in all of this, the prime minister took to social media and wrote in part that both sides have declared the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including Lebanon. The official signing ceremony is expected to take place on Friday, June 19th in Switzerland. And Vice President J.D. Vance, he spoke on Fox News not too long ago, and he said that he does plan to be at that signing, but that the president could be there. Now, Vance also outlined some core points that are going to be within this agreement. He said that one of those is to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, also lift that U.S. blockade there in the Strait of Hormuz. He also said that there was a built-in assurance that Iran would never have a nuclear weapon, would never pursue a nuclear weapon. Of course, we've heard that throughout this process, that is Trump's number one red line. And then that compliance would be central to implementation, that the United States wants to be able to verify that Iran is holding up its end of the bargain. Then I also want to point up a quote from Vance earlier today and read that for you now. In this same interview, he said, "I'm not going to say that everyone is going to sing Kumbaya tomorrow. It's going to take a little bit of time to learn the ways of peace, but I do think we took a major, major step tonight." Now, there are still questions on exactly what is included in this memorandum, but our understanding is it's going to trigger that 60-day period, lead to more technical talks, and a Trump administration official has told our team that it would include some of those top-line commitments when it comes to Iran's nuclear program. Vance pointing to some of that there as well.
And the world looking on. Nick Robertson, Julia Benbrook, appreciate the reporting. I want to bring in Congressman Adam Smith of Washington. He's the top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee, and I appreciate you being here. I just want to start with this agreement. Not directly an end to the war, a step in that direction with a lot of complex negotiations still to come. I just wonder, how are you assessing things right now?
I take it as a positive. I mean, this war has had such a devastating impact, obviously, on the Middle East, but on the broader world. We've seen so many lives lost, the global economy disrupted. If there is a path to ending it, that is a huge positive. So, I mean, the mere fact that we've made the progress that has been talked about and Iran has finally acknowledged that, I think that there's hope for that. I mean, now it's also worth noting that, this really makes it clear that this war accomplished nothing for the U.S. Put us back right where we were on February 27th, and only in a worse shape because we're fighting over opening the Strait of Hormuz. It really points up the folly of having started this war in the first place, but ending it should be the priority now.
And when you look at sort of what have generally speaking been the United States goals, obviously now it's getting the Strait of Hormuz reopened on the immediate phase of things. It's eliminating Iran's nuclear capabilities and also eliminating funding of terror proxies. CNN has new reporting this weekend that sources familiar with U.S. intelligence say in recent weeks, Iran has escalated efforts to seal off its cache of near bomb-grade uranium, collapsing tunnels, placing explosive mines at entrances. Does that say anything to you as we look to this next round of negotiations where, again, it appears to be starting at merely getting the Strait of Hormuz reopened?
Yeah, that specific fact, not really. It just shows me Iran was trying to prevent us from being able to come in and take it. But the larger point, getting back to why this war was such a stupid mistake in the first place, it just sort of takes us back to where we were. And this was the whole point behind the JCPOA, the nuclear agreement that President Obama negotiated. Iran is a problem. There's no doubt about it. They support terrorist organizations throughout the region, their ballistic missile programs. We would love all of that to go away. But we don't really have a path towards making it go away. So President Obama made the smart choice. He said, Iran's a problem. I'd rather have Iran be a problem without a nuclear weapon than be a problem with a nuclear weapon. And so we cut that deal. And then Trump stupidly tore it up. And now he's sort of limping back towards something very similar to that agreement. And by the way, the Strait of Hormuz was not previously on the table prior to this war. Iran had not dared to try to shut it down. Now they have this leverage point. We've put ourselves in a weaker position, and I just got to believe a whole part of it was, people love to talk about Trump derangement syndrome. I think Trump had Obama derangement syndrome. Whatever Obama was for, he had to be against, and he took us down this path to a conflict that has been incredibly deadly and has left the U.S. weaker at the end than we were at the beginning.
We've heard from Vice President J.D. Vance saying this agreement means Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. It does seem we're a long way away from that in terms of having that settled. But in terms of actually following through on that and being able to ensure that, do you see a scenario in which we don't have international monitors in the same way that was happening under the JCPOA?
Well, if we don't have international monitors, then we don't have a solid agreement. So yeah, that's what you need, and that's what the JCPOA negotiated. Keep in mind, Iran has always said that they have no intention of building a nuclear weapon. Now, I don't believe them. Most people don't believe them. So we wanted some guarantee of that. And that's what was negotiated with the inspectors, with the limitations, with everything that was put into place. So yeah, no, I mean, if this is going to work, ultimately, you would need inspectors to make sure that Iran stays within the parameters of that agreement. But again, we don't know the details here, but it's very, very clear that Trump is not on a path to get any kind of a better agreement than what we had under the JCPOA.